Holly with Stella Mari's Quilts. Welcome back to our series on 50 blocks for 50 states. Please make sure you check out the description box below for the information on this book, which has the original designs, as well as information about the adaptations and patterns that we have available for you. Today we're going to work on the block for the state of Idaho. So let's grab a cup of tea and let's get started. For the Idaho block, we're going to need 4 each of our medium and dark fabrics that are 5 3/4 by 4 inches. We're going to need 4 lights that are 3 inches and 1 light that's 2.5. We're also going to need to make some orange peel pieces. And to do that, we're going to use a strip that's 3 inches by 17 inches. And then we're going to fold it in half so that we can use just a simple circle template to cut out our orange peel shapes. If you have an orange peel template, feel free to use it. I don't, so I'm going to make do with what I have with a circle template. I'm going to mark my strip at 4 1/4 inch increments. So I've laid my ruler down and my first increment is going to be the edge here. And there's my first mark. I have this folded so that it's right sides together, so I'm marking on the back. Then I'm going to use my circle cutter, and I'm going to use this circle that is a 5-inch circle, and that's going to have a radius of 2 3/4 inches. So depending on what circle template you have, just make sure that you have a radius of 2 3/4 inches. I'm going to just line this up so that if I follow with my finger, I have one part of the circle. Oops, kind of got caught there. Okay. So where's my 5-inch circle? Right here. So I've got the mark here and the mark there, and they're both going to fit on here just like that. I'm going to go ahead and cut, and that's going to give me my orange peel shape that I'm looking for. I'm going to go ahead and cut 4 of those out of my strip here. Again, I'm going to line up, making sure that my line for that 5-inch circle has my mark on both sides. There we go. And I'll cut. Like I said, if you have an orange peel template that you would like to use, please use it. I don't have any, so I'm just going to make do. All right, so now I have 4 orange peels. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare my medium and dark fabrics so that we can sew the orange peel into them. They will be connected, let's see if I can grab one, somewhat like this. Before you mark and cut your medium and your dark rectangles, make sure you understand which direction and where you want the cutout to be. So our mediums are going to be the top section of the quadrant, and we're going to want to cut the arc out right here. So when I flip this over, I want to make sure that where I'm marking is going to cut in the right spot. All of my fabrics are in the same direction with the print side facing down. That way the final cut is correct on all of them. My first mark is going to be 1.5 inches in from the top corner. And my second mark is 2 3/4 inches down this longer side. I'm going to just kind of rotate it so I can have a better angle to cut. I'm going to use that same 5-inch line for my circle. And then I'm just going to go ahead and cut. So that's my medium. And then we'll have this. And we'll do the same thing for the dark, but we want the cut to be complementary. So I'm going to make sure I'm cutting this section here. So when I turn this over, again, with all of my prints facing down, so they're all going the same direction, I'm going to measure 2 3/4 inches this way. One and a half inches this way. And I'm going to use my 5-inch circle. There to there. I'm going to cut. Okay, so I made a mistake there. We're wanting to measure in 1.5 inches from this corner and then 2 3/4 down here, so that this line, this is the mark that we want to cut that 5 inches from. So I'm going to reline that up. Fortunately, I can still fix it. So now if we lay this out, we're going to have our pieces like this. Then we're going to have our orange peel in the middle here. We will have a square in the outside, and then this will be in the center after we've completed all of the quadrants. So we're going to start by making this quadrant here. This is going to require doing some Y seams. So to do that, I'm going to flip to the back. And I'm going to measure in a 1/4 inch seam allowance and mark those points. So I've got a mark here on this. I have a mark over here. And I'm going to first attach my orange peel to either my dark or my light, either one. I think I'll start with my dark. Come here, piece. There we go. I'm going to mark my 1/4 inch point here. Trying to use something that I can actually see. And mark my 1/4 inch here. These markings are going to give us our start and stop points for the Y seams that we're going to do. If you're unfamiliar with Y seams, we do have a video available that talks about Y seams and goes into it in more depth. So I'm going to brush over it through this, but if you need to know more, then please check out that video. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to find my centers, because this is now a curved piecing. Find this center. This block itself is a very simple look, but it actually requires a few different techniques to complete. So it was a little bit challenging for me from that standpoint. So I'm going to go ahead and put a pin in where my center point is. And then I'm going to pull this around. I'm going to put a pin through here. And actually, I'm actually going to sew it from the other side. So I'm going to move my other pin. And I want to make sure that my 1/4 inch marks line up, because I'm going to start and stop at these 1/4 inch points. That's going to allow me to sew all of the pieces together with that Y seam. Going to stick my pin right through here, make sure it lines up with that 1/4 inch marking. And then I'm going to just carefully take this to the sewing machine and just take my time and sew my 1/4 inch seam along this curve, starting at this point and then stopping at this point where my markings are. I'll do that on all 4 of these dark pieces. So now that I've sewn the orange peel into my darks, I'm just going to gently finger press it so that the seam is going towards the orange peel. I'm not going to use my iron just yet because I have a few other things to add to the block before I'm ready to actually press. So we're going to follow the same step. We're going to mark our 1/4 inch on the back of our medium fabric here. And we're going to do the same thing as we did with the dark, with finding our center. Kind of marked most of my centers as I was doing this already. I'm going to fold my medium to find my center. I'll line up my centers here and put a pin in them. It just helps with the curved piecing to have just a couple pins. The center and the ends is plenty. And then with my medium on top, I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and I'll do all 4 of them. And again, sew my 1/4 inch seam, but only between those 2 markings of the 1/4 inch seam allowance points. So I'll do a little bit of a back stitch at this point, a little bit of a back stitch at this point, just to make sure that the threads don't come undone. But then that'll be this step. Now that we've sewn our medium and our dark to our orange peel piece here, the block looks kind of funny, and it's kind of become a theme with this series a little bit, funny looking blocks. But we're going to go ahead and do another Y seam, adding our 3 inch square. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark my 1/4 inch seam. And I'm going to insert this right in here. So I'll do one side and then the other, but I'm going to sew, lining up my edge here from the 1/4 inch point with a little bit of back stitching all the way to the end, and then I'll rotate it and also the other side the same way. So now we have all of our quadrants with the corners for the outside. We're just going to go ahead and lay this whole thing out. Just like that. And we're going to go ahead and sew all of our sides together here. Then we'll come back and worry about this empty square in the center. And here's what it looks like with all the 4 quadrants sewn together. We have one final hole that we're going to fill in by adding this square using those famous Y seams yet again. So I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to mark where my 1/4 inch intersection points are on the corners here. Then I'm going to put this together one side at a time, just sewing between those points, turning it, grabbing the next side, sewing until I have all 4 sides sewn into the center. And here's the finished Idaho block with all of its wonderful curved piecings and Y seams. Thank you for joining me today working on the Idaho block with the curved piecing and the Y seams. I know it seems daunting, but just practice it a couple times before you work on your block, and I'm sure you'll do just fine. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you continue joining us on this journey through all 50 states. Until next time, cheers and happy quilting.